And welcome back to JKLIVE live on the road in New York City, Central Park to be precise. I tell you, the discussion is smoking. Michael Joseph, the chairman of the board of Kenya Airways, and the outgoing CEO, Sebastian Mikosz. We're talking KQ's future here, so I hope you're listening. Sit back. Sebastian, before the break, you said, you know where you can get the $450 million that Michael needs?
You get them by putting all the assets together. Not competing, but by working together. This money are here, this money comes to Kenya. If you follow the dollar, what happens is that when a plane lands, a foreign plane, money goes to KAA. It's refueled by an external refuel, and it's handled by one of our competitors. We don't see any money coming. So you have a passenger who came, but the money went completely somewhere else. Actually, if you put all these assets together, which all the countries around us, you have all this money in one pot. It doesn't mean, again, because I know the questions that will be asked, that I want to jump on the bank account of Jomo Kenyatta and swoop the money that is there and put it in KQ. But I want to have a system, and this is what we recommend, where each passenger that lands reinforces Kenyan aviation system, not only KQ, and we are an essential part. But I cannot do without Jomo Kenyatta, they cannot do without me. We are the only carrier interested in growing the hub, the only one. Everybody is interested just picking the passenger and sending it to its own hub. So, of course, if Michael fixes $450 million of cash, then I'll beg to stay. But
you heard that, Michael. So you're jumping the ship now, huh?
No, I mean the ship is in bad mood. Huh? The ship is in bad situation because we don't know where it's sailing. Yeah, it can flip over. Everybody has to be very cautious about this. But what I'm saying is that it's not that the money needs to come from the government in a subsidy transfer on the bank account. The money is there. It just needs to flow differently and be controlled differently. And actually, I was advocating since the beginning that our mandate should not be dividends. Our mandate should be measured in not taking any more cash from the exchequer. We just don't need it. Just be helped once. Contribute to the GDP, create stable jobs, and most of it, create connectivity. You know, the absurdity is that London is closer than Botswana because it takes 12 hours to go to Gaborone from Nairobi, but it takes only 8 hours double daily or 8.5 to go to London. So how can we be an African carrier while we're not creating this connectivity, we're not creating this capacity of being a leader in the region, but also of just easing businesses with all
this? Why does it take 12 hours to get to Gaborone? You have to go through Joburg?
Of course, that's the shortest, but it can take 16. So you don't measure today the distance in kilometers. You measure it in a number of hours you need to go between 2 points, and do you have a capacity to go in the morning and come back in the evening? If we fly three times a week to Angola, why don't we fly double daily? Why don't you create the capacity of people and goods to be transported? And the more technology comes in our lives, the more video conferences, data, and all of this stuff, the more human contact will be important. You have a living proof in this country, yeah? The country of Amazon and Google. They never had such a boom of airlines, and they could all sit in their seats and use the screens, even though they do differently. Africa is exactly the same. It's going to be just a little slower and a little behind this most modern economy just because of the GDP per capita. That's the only difference.
And Michael, with your glutton for punishment, can you turn this thing around? I mean, and I asked you this earlier on, because we're staring at possible disaster here.
Yeah, first let me just correct something. First of all, let me say this. I have a lot to lose. It's not that I have nothing to lose by saying what I'm saying. I have a lot to lose, and therefore I'm choosing my words very carefully, and I'm saying things that has been heard before. This is not new what I'm saying. It might sound new now, but it's what we've said before. And I also have to say this, is there are people within power, I would say, I've tried to use the right, not just government, but people who are with influence and power that really understand what we're all about, who are really concerned what's happening, from the highest office in the land, very concerned about what's happening. It's what we need to do is to turn that concern around into some sort of action. So there are people that are worrying there are people who understand, particularly people at higher levels of government, who understand what needs to be done. It's to get all these agencies of government together to make it happen. Can we turn it around? I say once again, I'm cautiously optimistic that we can. And I think some of the things, part of this initiative, this interview, some of the other things that we're doing as a board, well, maybe we'll bring this to a head to say, guys, pay attention now. We've had this now. We've thrashed it out. We keep on moving the goalpost and saying in another 3 months and we'll be out of the woods. It's not happening because the fundamentals are not right. So it doesn't matter what he does. It won't change the bottom line because of the structure of Kenya Airways, the way it is financially, not change. And that's what we need to change. We need to get rid of the debt. We need to bring our you can tell you that debt, the interest that we pay annually is, what is the interest rate? 40 million?
Yeah, almost $60 million.
$60 million
cash.
a year just in interest, let alone the principal. If we can just get that reduced by half or even to more than that, which can be done with state assistance and state intervention, it can be done. If we have a better balance sheet, we can refinance and restructure our leases on our aircraft, which can dynamically change the airline. If we can find a way to replace some of our aging aircraft, which are with more fuel-efficient aircraft, which don't require significant maintenance costs going forward, it can change the whole fortune of the airline. But all this requires, not just cash, but it requires financial backing to do that. It's like the Embraer fleet, which is now, how many years old now? Is it 8 years old? They need to be replaced, but we have no way of replacing it.
It's a vicious circle, because when you have a financial struggle, you are very constrained on cash. So what you do, you stop the investments, but the investments are the best way to lower your costs. So you have a vicious circle. Of course, airplanes, but I could quote the distribution, sales costs, everything that requires the digitalization. It requires a few millions here, a few millions here. Look, Jeff, one of the things which really frustrates me, that's a thing that can be done by the government instantly. We should be the biggest training school of pilots in Africa. We should have 5-7 simulators, a full-fledged school, for a very simple reason. Kenyans do speak English, and many nations don't. And in this industry, you need to speak fluently English to be able to operate. Kenyans doesn't have a problem to go abroad to work for 6-7 months. And it doesn't mean the Gulf only. Just look at the carriers that are being created around. Look at Asia, which needs 25,000 pilots in the next 5 years. So, and I'm super frustrated, because every time I go and see a bank and I want a 787 simulators, they look at me and say, my father, you have negative equity, your cash is constrained, and you have all these problems. We will not lease you a simulator. A simulator costs $20 million. It can be paid over 15 years. Why don't we? This should have been done a long time ago. It's just like a question of creating perspective for the young people who are coming from schools. There is an unemployment issue. And when we discuss this, and then should we do a dividend payment? Then I would sell the school and then be closer to dividends. Yeah. Does it make sense? It doesn't.
Humor me. Ethiopia does probably have a simulator.
They have 8. No, but you see, Ethiopian it's not like suddenly the sky opened and the Ethiopian felt and they are here. It's a 15 years project of continuous, consistent management and priorities. They didn't build it overnight. They were just good in consistent doing this, and we could do it too. Actually, we were bigger than them at that time when they started, but we missed the shot. So it's really the point. They have their own maintenance hangars. They do external maintenance. We should be, with the labor cost in Kenya, we should have at least servicing all the Embraers for half of the planet, because we know how to operate it. And it requires an additional, $10-20 million investment in tooling? We don't have it. And I can keep going on and on and on. Of course, if you take all these initiatives together, well, we might end up with 100 or 200 million of assets to be invested. But what is it at the scale of the country? And by the way, there are people from outside who wants to lend this money, who wants to lease. So it's not a question of immediate cash flow. It's just a question of, again, like in Dubai. But you can have another example, Singapore. Same, it's a consistent government policy of treating this infrastructure as a key asset to grow the GDP of the country. Oman did it, Abu Dhabi did it, Dubai did it, Singapore did it, Egypt did it.
Singapore is a very interesting example. Yeah. Singapore built the airport. It's a fantastic airport if you've been there. It's great. It's owned by the state, okay? Singapore Airlines is owned by the state. Singapore encourages every airline to fly there, but they have a certain market share below which Singapore will not go below. But they still encourage people to come there because other airlines come in, it adds revenue to the airport and to the country. And so it finances Singapore Airlines.
And it's profitable.
And it's profitable. I mean, I don't know if they're profitable, but they're probably profitable. But you know, this is what we need to grasp. It should be, you know, okay, we have the big four, but this should be the number 5. And of course, we would argue that should be the number 1 priority. But of course, obviously, housing is more important. Yeah. But I think this is where we not have enough interested people to say, you know, sorry. The other thing I want to say, when people look at what we're trying to do, the privatization or the PPP, everybody saw the negative side and implied that there was something negative about it. You know, that there was somebody who had vested interest, and this is why we're doing it, to help somebody else make more money. You know, I don't know why we always look at our big project and say it may be the case, but you know, it may be the case in other projects or some projects, but not every project has got some vested interest trying to have some elements of taking money out or leaking money or whatever it may be. You know, this is how they look, how they destroyed the PPP. The PPP was a fantastic project, could have been done by now. We wouldn't be sitting here complaining, we would be doing it by now. It was killed by a lie, which was allowed to happen. And just allowed and just said, well, it was a lie, but you know, nobody read the document when they said, when you do the PPP, all the jobs of KA jobs will be lost. It was a complete lie. It was 100% opposite to the truth.
And the lie told over and over again became true.
And yeah, over and over. And it was, and that person who spoke that lie was a government employee, and was never reprimanded, disciplined in any way. No. Destroyed it single-handedly.
Gentlemen, they also say that you never know you really have something until you lose it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. That's true. But this suspicious, this lack that what Chairman is mentioning, you know, if I have had access to Kenyan press before I took the job, I wouldn't probably, because if you open Kenyan press, everybody is a theft, everybody is a crook, or everybody dies. Yeah. It's appalling. I mean, come on. There's plenty of projects realized in Kenya, and of course I know that there is corruption and everything. I know that I blame it too. But I'm coming from a country which was one of the most corrupted countries in Europe. I like saying we Poles invented corruption. My grandfather did, you know. So there's nothing you can teach me in Kenya. Yeah? The problem is execution. Yeah? The problem is that things need to go forward. Things need to happen, because if not, there is no dynamic, there is no middle class that's going to be created. The housing, and it's all interlinked. So for me, it's really, this project was, I mean, this PPP, there's people who say that I don't want to continue because of the PPP. Yeah, it's partly true. It's partly true. It's not the whole truth, but it also, like, you have a project supported by the president, supported by the government. We create a pack of documents like this, and then somebody goes and says that we're going to be firing people, while the document says that we're going to be hiring people. How do you want to fight it? Yes, without even being asked. I mean, what's the common sense? You want to create a hub which is bigger with less people? I mean, I know Kenya is M-Pesa and all of this, but we're not that modern that we're going to use robots. Yeah, we're going to use human beings. They are still much cheaper than robots and much more reliable.
Michael, is it going to be difficult replacing Sebastian?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the experience that we've had, that Sebastian's had, you know, it's people. I mean, the aviation industry is, despite it being a massive industry, is quite small in terms of top people. And Sebastian will tell you this, there's not a very big pool of people who are, first of all, willing to come to Africa, you know, that connotation, then to Kenya, with all the challenges that we have within Kenya Airways, and then to, you know, what we've done, what we've gone through now with the failed PPP, with the nationalization taking so long. You know, people sort of hesitate, you know, they're not all like me, who, as you say, keep on saying are a glutton for punishment, so they're not all like me. But I'm confident, and I say this, I'm confident that we will get the replacement for Sebastian, a different one, a different Sebastian, okay? Hopefully with the same sort of energy and dynamism to do what we need to do. But yeah, it's difficult. It's not easy. You don't have a huge pool of people to take on this job. But that's not just common. That's just not just the airline. I mean, look at Safaricom. It took us 2 years to find the next CEO of Safaricom. So it's not just the airline.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you took over the running of Safaricom, even as you're doing this other stuff. Come on, man. Michael, what is it? Are you a machine?
Well, look, first of all, Jeff, I had no option about Safaricom, very little option. Safaricom, this is not an interview about Safaricom, but it was my baby from the very beginning. You know, when Bob passed on, I was the natural person to take a CEO role from a holding point of view until we found somebody else. Would I like to continue in this job? That's a big debate with myself as well. But
I didn't know Michael talks to himself so much in the morning.
But yeah, so no, it was necessary. I'm not saying that it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Yeah. It's time-consuming and quite stressful. But it was necessary.
Yeah.
But you know, I was asked by His Excellency himself, do you want to do both jobs? You know, and I said, no, I want to continue with the job you've given me. He said, you know, you can stop Kenya Airways if you want because you do Safaricom. I said, no, I want to continue with the job that I was given, and I had probably missed that opportunity.
And you walked out there and kicked yourself, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Or other people kicked me. Yeah.
All right. Most frustrating thing about your tenure here, about your job, most frustrating?
The press. It's non-professional, unreliable, and only driven by sensation. And actually, that's very bad, because it's very bad for the country. It was very difficult internally, but people internally, they resist using the press through relays. It's just all these cartels that we had. They defended themselves by throwing documents outside, which kept going on and on and on. But that's okay. That's part of the job. But it's like, okay, I'm gonna go. Okay, you can fight me, but the next guy who's gonna come, he's not gonna have a printing machine of shillings. And suddenly miracle will happen, and suddenly our pilots will decrease their salaries, Amadeus will decrease its contracts, all lessors will give leeway and decrease. It's not going to happen. So actually I'm saying this because this thing that Michael is pointing out, that this is the national carrier of Kenya, I never heard it. I never heard, okay, maybe we don't like what he does, but at the end, you were kind enough to say that I had some experience in turning this around. But you don't make mistakes only if you don't make decisions. Yes, I probably did some mistakes, and of course, I'll reflect on that. And there's surely things I should have done differently. But at the very end, I did come to turn around KQ, not to fight with Kenya or Kenyans, or and I want this airline to be successful, because you judge a manager not by the way he arrives, but the way he leaves. So what's going to stay when I leave? Is the team going to be there? Is the network going to be there? Will people say, okay, that was a good job done? So it's all about my reputation. So I really want this whole adventure for the last 3 years to be extremely successful, and people say, okay, maybe the only thing he did is that he took some hits, but he attracted attention to the problem. Well, that's a success already. Yeah, there was no debate. Now at least there is a debate. I was auditioned and hit hard by the Transport Committee of the Parliament, but I know they read all the documents we produced, and I know what they've put in the report, and I can only agree. Now, I'm a manager to hire, so if the government says again, we go left, we go left. If they say we go right, we go right. That's at the end a shareholder decision. Yeah. So that was a big frustration, but again, there was more happy days than bad days, believe me.
10 years from now, MJ, 10 years from now, KQ, take a look. You always like to look ahead. Tell us. All things being equal.
Well, let me say, 10 years from now, I hope that we'll be double the size that we are now, at least double the size, maybe triple the size that we are now, that we're flying to more destinations in both Africa and internationally, and that we are a successful airline. Not, as Sebastian keeps saying, from a dividend, from paying dividends, but from a successful airline in drawing, people to come headquartered in Nairobi. That's what I hope in 10 years from now. We have a very important turning point right now. I mean, this is probably 2 years late, but at this point we are now at this tipping point where we go left or we go right, which will determine where we will be in 10 years' time. If we go right and we make the wrong decision, we'll be a regional airline with maybe 20 airplanes flying regionally. If we go left and be successful, then we'll be 120 aircraft, flying across Africa and internationally. It's the choice that has to be made now, not in 6 months' time, now. And this is, what is so important, and why this interview is so appropriate in terms of timing. Before the year end, we need to say, guys, pay attention. Make the right decision now. Not in 6 months' time, not in 12 months' time, now. And fortunately, we have support. I'm not saying it's not all doom and gloom. We have support in Parliament. The chairman of the Transport Committee is very supportive. Parliament was unanimous in supporting us. Every member you talk to, certain people within government at the high levels, at State House, are very supportive. We just have to put the foreign affairs, we just have to put all this together and say, okay, guys, now let's go. The other day I was with CS Balala, And you know, he has got an unenviable task of bringing more tourists to Kenya with with not such great connectivity. You know, it's, so the tourism, the corporate business, all depends on the success or not of Kenya Airways.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. As we wind down, this market here, this American market here, can we crack it?
Well, I think Sebastian is the best person to answer that question.
But we are cracking it. Again, it doesn't happen from Monday to Tuesday. Look, we carried 105,000 passengers. There is a prospect to carry more. The key element from just a commercial perspective for KQ is to establish a good partnership with one American carrier, which would be Delta for us as a the moment Delta puts a code on us, the moment we become an associated member of the JV, the joint venture which is going through Southern and Northern Atlantic, we could think about easily double daily and add two more cities. But it's not going to happen from Monday to Tuesday. It's going to take 3 years. If you are not present here, those things I'm saying will never happen. Yesterday here we had a meeting with travel agents, okay? These people access the market here in New York, but in all East Coast, which can spend $20,000 for a week of travel per person per week, yeah? And we have those customers, they are coming. They pay $600, $800 in lodges, they pay park fees, etc. So, and again, it's not about just coming and says, oh, by the way, I'm here, oh, and then suddenly you have 500,000 passengers. You need time to swap it, you need consistency, you need long-term investment in particularly a so competitive market like this. So I really would like us to continue be here, to do those small steps, to believe in it, and you know, we will, I mean, geez, we are one of the few, 5, I think, carriers in Africa who had non-stop flight from the US. We started 1 year ago, we didn't have a single security incident, while everybody was afraid of that. So we should kind of congratulate ourselves for that, but now be very cautious, because when we launched this flight, you know, we were very supported by the American government and by the Kenyan government, but in the airline industry, I emphasize it, nobody wanted us to do it. Nobody. Because we are taking profitable traffic, because the front seat, which is business class, is full, because once you are established in this market, it's very difficult to kick you out, and because. So we are there, we should stay there, and we should believe that in 2-3 years, we'll all say, okay, this market will become what the press already announced, lucrative. It's nothing but an investment. One day it's going to be lucrative. It's already lucrative for the country, it's still not lucrative for the airline.
Knowing what you know now, would you have signed that contract to become CEO today?
Without a second of hesitation. It was the best adventure of my life, of my family. I'm coming from a very specific country, unfortunately or fortunately not too known in Kenya, but we are not an open country, you know. We don't have ethnic variety like in Kenya, religious variety. We are a different country, so coming here is an opening for me, for my kids. Coming here to Kenya was getting out of the comfort zone, because at the end you have to relearn things. You thought you knew something, yeah? The moment you start in this industry thinking you know, the market proves you wrong. I would do it without hesitation, and you know, you know what they were scaring me with? With Michael Joseph. That was supposed to be the most difficult person to manage. Not really, not really.
Really? You're telling us now?
Yeah, but now I can.
But also to reiterate what Sebastian said, I mean, there's no hesitation in saying that we hired the right guy for the right time and the right job. And I said, I'm sad that you see him going. I think this is the right decision. I don't regret it at all. And I think this is, you know, as you say, it's a learning process. And I think we have the ingredients to do well. We have all the ingredients. We just need a bit, you know, I would say, it's not a little bit of support. We just need strong support from the government of the day to understand what this is all about. And I reiterate, it's you know, what we're trying to do is high risk. It's high risk personally, it's high risk for the company, and it's high risk for the country if we get it wrong. And that's why I think we're getting pushing so much effort at every level now to say, guys, pay attention. And you know, we have a CEO that's leaving, we have another CEO coming in. I believe we have the right ingredients to still turn it around.
You know, aren't you the one who said that Kenya is a country of peculiar people? Aren't you the guy?
I'm rumored to have said that. I didn't say that we have peculiar people. I said we have peculiar habits.
The same thing?
No, not the same thing. But in essence, I was right, and I am right. You know, we have peculiar habits of seeing, oh, the airline takes off every day, it flies to New York every day. Must be a wonderful airline.
Correct. Must be making money.
Must be making money. What the hell? Yeah. But I still think I was right in my comment, or I was what I was alleged to have said at the time.
Yeah. You're quoted in university papers.
Yes,
Michael Joseph, thank you so much for your time, man, and keep at it, man. Thank you for hanging in. Sebastian, all the very best to you, huh?
Thank you.
And good luck going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for having faith in our country.
I always tell a little Kenyan now, you know, you will not get rid of me fully. Huh? Don't hope. Don't hope.
MJ, Michael Joseph, Sebastian Mikosz, Kenya Airways. That's the story, folks, going forward. I hope you're paying attention. If not, then rewind the tape and watch again, because this is important, folks. It's about you and the future of our nation. Think about it. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JKLIVE. Remember, every Wednesday, it's all about those 3 letters on the keyboard that follow each other. JKL. Right here at Citizen Television, whether back at home in the studios or on the road like we are here today in New York City, Central Park. Thanks so much for being a part of this show. Good night, good luck, and God bless. Thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great stuff, Michael.